Hey everybody, it's Rogway here, and today we are learning a animation program called Adobe Animate. This is going to lead us into our 2D animation part of the program. The reason we're using Adobe Animate, again, it's part of the Adobe family, but it is a well-respected, worldwide used software for animation specifically. Um, just to pull up a quick site here that I had open, just to show you just how many shows have been done with Animate. This is just a list, and I'm sure some of these shows that you probably watched as a kid were made with Animate in one way or another. So this is just a partial list, not the entire list. But anyways, as you can tell, it is quite a well-known software for animation. It's really powerful, but it's also kind of a tricky program to use. And today what we're going to do is we're going to look at a very simple sort of introductory start to Animate and how to get sort of get going with it. And in the tutorial folder, you'll see a file called a walk cycle. Looks like this. All right, and what we're going to do today is we're going to just create a simple walk cycle using just the basics of Animate, so you guys know how to use the program. All right, load up Animate. You can do a search for it if you want. It's going to say AN. It'll look like that, and when the program launches, it's going to look something like this. It might ask you if you need to, use the help or whatever, since it's the first time loading. Don't worry about that. But eventually you will get to a part that says that you can make a new file, so click that. And you'll notice in Animate that there are all sorts of different things we can create with it. Before the name Animate was used, it used to be called Adobe Flash. And if you've ever played those online Flash games, they were created using Animate. All right, so you can see that there's a tab for games, but it's got things like animation, social media, education. We got ads, web apps as well. But we're going to be focusing on animation today, and we're going to go with a HD frame. The resolution is fine, and the frame rate is very important when you go into Animate. The frame rate determines how many frames you have to draw for every 1 second of animation. And what I like to do to make my life easier, because 30 is a lot, to have to draw 30 pictures for 1 second of animation. We're going to change this. We're going to go to 12. All right. So you can get away with quite a low frame rate in animation. It's still going to look decent. So hit create, and we can change this after anyway. So hit create. All right, now what you're going to see is Animate sets itself up. It looks like this. And you're going to see that we have our stage here. We have our tools along the left-hand side. We have our palettes here, and we got a timeline here. If it doesn't look like the way you see it right here, what we're going to do is go to Window, Workspaces, and we're going to set it to Essentials. All right. So it should look like this. It should match mine. And you'll notice that it's kind of a mix between Premiere and Photoshop. So we now know Premiere, we now know Photoshop. So now Animate is kind of a sort of a logical next step because we know those two programs. All right, so in this case, what you can see here is we got all these drawing tools along the left-hand side, which I'm only going to show you a few today. We got our timeline here, which is actually in frames. Okay, so in Premiere it was represented by seconds or whatever. In this case, you'll see that it's actual frames, and then the seconds are up here. So you notice that because we set it to 12, every 12th frame is a second. All right, so there's 12, 24. I think you understand how that works. And the way animation works is, if you've ever made a simple animation, let's say with like a flip book, where you've taken a stack of paper and flipped through them with different pictures on each one, it's very similar to that, where you have all these frames that are going to eventually make our animation once they're played back at a certain speed. All right, so What we're going to do today is we're going to create a walk cycle. All right, and you'll notice one thing very different from Photoshop is we can't easily zoom in and out on our canvas. Command 0 will not work, unfortunately. So that is one difference in the program. So the way that you zoom in and out is up in the top right corner here. You're going to go to Show All or Fit in Window, and that will zoom it out so that you can see the entire window. All right, so don't forget about that. It's up in the top right corner here. Show All or Fit in Window. And then you can use the magnifying glass if you want to zoom in on just a part of it. All right, so just remember to keep going up here to zoom out if you need to. All right, now you'll notice right now we have a layer right here, layer 1. What we're going to do is we're going to go to our tutorial folder, and we're going to actually take the walk cycle picture and we're just going to drop it onto the stage like that. All right, and so this is our reference for our walk cycle. And you'll notice in Animate, using the tools like the selection tool, we can move things around just like in Photoshop. This second one is very important. This is the transform tool. And it works a little differently than other programs. If we grab a corner, it will allow us to scale our picture, but you'll notice that we can stretch it in different axes, up and down. So X and Y. If we want to just scale it proportionally, if we want it to look like it doesn't get stretched, you hold Shift. And Shift will allow you to scale it proportionally. So let me show that again. I'm just going to undo Command Z. And I'm going to go here and I'm going to hold Shift as I do that. And you'll see now that that scales correctly. It doesn't allow me to stretch it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put this up in the corner for reference, like this. Just up there, so that we can see what we're doing as we are creating this walk cycle. Okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to name this layer by double-clicking it. I'm just going to call this reference. This is what I'm using to check to see what I need to draw in order to create this walk cycle. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this little plus down here to make a new layer. And this is going to be my walk cycle. This is actually going to be my drawing. Oh, what did I do? I must have put a space. Yeah. You can't put spaces in the name for some reason. I don't know. So no spaces allowed. You'll notice a lot of the things like Photoshop are here. Like you can lock your layer, for example. Right now it won't move. Now you can't grab it. You can't do anything with it. You can hit the little eyeball here to turn it on or turn it off. You can switch it to outline mode like this. So it just shows sort of an outline of what's on the layer. Okay, these are handy depending on what you're doing. Again, for now, I'm going to lock the reference so we don't accidentally move it. And I'm going to go to the first frame, okay, frame 1, it'll tell us right here, first frame of the walk cycle layer. Okay, so you see which frame is selected? The walk cycle. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to take the brush tool. Here it is, right here. And it does work a little different than Photoshop, a little bit. However, the shortcuts for the brush size and stuff are still the same as Photoshop. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the brackets on the keyboard. Okay, remember next to the P key, to the right of the P key, you've got these two brackets. And when you draw, you want to try to find the right size brush for what looks good in your picture. Okay, so I'm just kind of experimenting. The one thing that kind of frustrates me about Animate is it doesn't give you a preview like Photoshop does. It doesn't make this circle bigger or smaller. It just always shows a circle. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at this character in the first sort of frame of the walk cycle, and we're going to draw it right here. So we're going to go, and I'm just using my mouse here, so it might be rough. And I'm going to just draw that first frame. Now, don't judge me. I won't be judging you. We're going to draw that first frame of this walk cycle. Okay, just the first sort of, first step. There it is. Okay, so you can see that kind of matches that. They look similar. All right, we have our first frame done. Okay, so like I said, think of Animate as like a flip book. Now what we need to do is we need to have our second frame. Okay, and the way that Animate works is in a system called frames and keyframes. And these are going to be used constantly in every program that we use pretty much from here on. Even Premiere had them. And the way that they work is if we go now to the second frame of the walk cycle, okay, so we're going to head over here. What we can do is we can right click and insert a blank keyframe. So think of a blank keyframe as a blank sheet of paper. We're going to put a blank sheet of paper for our next frame. If we just insert a regular keyframe, what that's going to do is it's going to copy the frame before it. So it's actually going to take this piece of paper where we have the drawing of this first frame, and it's going to repeat it on that next frame. In this case, like I said, we're going to put a blank keyframe because we want to get ready to put in the second step of the walk cycle. So insert a blank keyframe. There we go. All right, but you'll notice that now everything has disappeared. If we move our little playhead back, we'll see that everything is there. But you notice now on this frame, we don't see anything. And the reason for that is because if you look down this line here, we don't have anything to show. The reference is only on this first frame, and the first frame of the walk cycle is only on that first frame, which means that in the second frame now, there's nothing to show. So what we want to do is we want to extend the reference so that we can actually see it for the entire time that we're going to be drawing each step. And if we count the frames, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, on the reference layer, we're going to go to 8, which is right here. And we're going to right click. And we're going to insert a keyframe. The reason we're inserting a keyframe is because we want it to repeat. All right, remember, blank keyframe wipes it out. Keyframe extends it or copies it. And so now you'll see that we have the reference now for the entire 8 frames. Okay, and this first frame disappears after the first frame. So the second frame is blank. All right, now you might be wondering, well, how can I draw the second frame of the walk cycle if I can't see where the first one was? Well, in Adobe Animate, there's this great function called onion skinning, which is pretty common in animation programs. It's right here. It's these two overlapping circles. And if you click them, what it's going to allow you to do is it's going to basically turn your frames into sort of like semi-transparent frames that allow you to see back to the frames before, which is super useful because now we know exactly where our previous frame was, and we can take our brush tool and we can draw the second frame right over top of the previous one. You might be wondering, why am I drawing the head a little lower? Well, you'll notice in the second frame there that the head is a little lower. All right, this is going to give us sort of that walk where he bobs his head up and down. Okay, so again, this is gonna look super confusing. I'm assuming that it's gonna look weird because I'm drawing right over top of my other drawing. Hand stays pretty much in the same spot, more or less, like that. Okay, but at any point, if I want to turn off onion skin, I can just click it on or off. You'll notice, like I said, that you can see that his head from here to here has gone down quite a bit in the second frame. So that's why I drew it lower, but you'll now see that that frame matches pretty closely to the second one. Now the rest of this is pretty repetitive. Now we're going to go to the third frame. We're going to right click. We're going to insert a blank keyframe. And now you'll notice that we can see the last 2 frames. And you notice it starts to get confusing. You start to, it starts to mess you up as to which one should you be, tracing over. But you'll notice in your timeline here that you have this green bar and this blue bar. And the blue bar determines how far back you can see. So if it's only on 1 frame back, it means you'll only see the previous frame. The green bar lets you determine how far forward you can see. So again, I like to keep mine on just the last frame, the frame before that. All right, so I keep it to 1 bar each. You can set it to whatever makes you happy. So we're now on the third frame, which means we're going to draw this one, and we're going to put it right over top. Now it's important, I didn't mention this, but it's important to have them right over top of each other. All right, we want this guy to be walking on the spot. And if you're wondering, well, how do I make him walk across the stage? Don't worry about it for now, because there's a much easier way of doing that later. Right now we're just focusing on getting the, oops, if you screw up, always do Command Z. Now guys, I'll be honest, I'm drawing with a mouse right now. This is not how I'd normally draw. If you have a drawing tablet available to you, use that. It's so much easier. Okay, so now we'll look, turn off onion skin. Nah, it looks pretty bad, but anyways, that's okay. We're gonna go to the fourth frame now, insert blank keyframe. Now, like I said, the rest of this here is going to be pretty repetitive, but let's get all the frames done, and then we'll talk again once we get to that point. So for now, I'm just gonna draw. I'm gonna go pretty quick. And again, even if you don't have any drawing ability, even if your drawings are, not very good, all right, I can almost guarantee you that you're going to have something that will probably impress you at the end of this. Something that's going to look at least somewhat decent. Okay, insert blank keyframe. Sometimes I do like to go back a few just to make sure my guy isn't moving off the spot. I want him to still be right on that first spot. He looks like he's okay. So now I'm on the fifth frame. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's this one. Just be careful you don't mess up and draw the wrong. Oops, his head's getting smaller as we go. It's important to try to be consistent with your drawings. To try to have at least something that looks the same. Even if it's bad, make it consistently bad. But try not to have parts of him change too much, because it will look kind of weird when you're looking at it after. Now in animation, animators that work for big companies and stuff, what they will do is they will actually use reference images of like walk cycles of actual animals. Whatever it is that they're trying to draw, they will get reference video usually of a walk cycle or a series of footage that shows frame by frame how a person would run or how a creature would, walk or crawl or whatever. And they would do very much the same sort of thing, very similar, trace over it to get those initial sort of movements so that they know that that is going to be accurate as far as how things actually move in real life. Now, obviously, animation is exaggerated. Animation is always sort of exaggerating the way things work in real life. But as long as the principles of sort of how things move are there, it will be believable to the people who are looking at it. Right, this one I can't even see his other arm, so I'm not even going to draw it. That one might look pretty goofy. Yeah, it's okay. And I'm on the last one now. Blank keyframe. And that's this one, obviously. And again, I'm always paying attention to sort of the height of the head. So if it goes up and down a little bit, I'm going to adjust that in my drawing. Okay. Now again, it might look like we're just putting squiggly lines over top of other squiggly lines, but trust me, it's going to look like something once it's all done. Now, one thing I want to mention about this is now we've got all of them drawn, okay? Even though we're just drawing stickman here, even though we're just like, it's just a frame by frame of a stickman, the nice thing about Animate is that it stores all of this, that we could easily go back and take this stick man, and now we could start putting details. Like we start putting clothing, we could start putting a face in here. We could start hashing out sort of what this character looks like. But you'll notice now if I grab this little playhead, and you see I turned off onion skin. If I run it through, you will see we have a walking dude. This guy is just kind of walking on the spot like this. Okay? And like I said, even if you don't have the greatest drawing abilities, it's going to look okay. Now, if you screw up, if you go through this and you're like, oh, one of the frames looks absolutely horrible, you can always go and take your brush tool and fix it up. You can take the eraser tool, which is here, and just kind of clean it up. Okay, whatever you need to do to get it better. When you want to test it out, you can go to Control, Test, or in the top right corner, you can see this little play button here to test the movie. What it's going to do is it's going to play on repeat over and over and over again, and you're just going to be able to sort of study that walk cycle that you just created to see how it looks. And I think that one looks pretty good. It's not bad. He bounces a bit and some of his proportions change a little, but it's decent. And like I said, if you ever want to change the speed of your animation, let's say you're like, yeah, I think he's walking too fast. I mean, we have a couple options. We could add extra frames between, which slows things down, or we can go up to Modify Document. We can change our frame rate. And the lower the frame rate, let's say I go to 8, is going to change the amount of time that things take. Now he's going to walk slower. All right? And you can see that even at 8 frames per second, it still looks all right. It's not horrible. All right? Let's say I go up to 30 frames, which would be kind of the low standard for video. You're going to see it's going to be insanely fast. Like almost not even watchable because of how fast he's moving. All right? So again, those are the basics of Animate. We're definitely going to be expanding on this in future lessons, but this is how you create simple animations, okay? And like I said, it's no different than creating a flip book that you might have done in school or whatever with a pad of paper. It's no different than that. And probably the trickiest thing I think is for people to understand how frames and keyframes work. That takes a little bit of practice, but just keep in mind that a keyframe is basically like a checkpoint. It stores information on each frame. All right, and I forgot to mention this, but when you see these black dots, the black dots just mean that the frame has been filled with something, that there's something there. If you make a blank keyframe, let me just do that right now, you'll see that that is a hollow dot. It's an empty circle. That just means that there's nothing there yet. So always pay attention to that to make sure you don't have any hollow keyframes that you don't want. All right. And if you need to ever get rid of a frame, you can just remove the frame here so that it's gone. All right. So that's the basics of Animate. Again, we're going to be expanding on this quite a bit, but make sure you play with this, sort of experiment with it, and try to create, a simple animation anyways, using just these very simple principles.